You're talking about people not reading and illiteracy has gotten me, and I've started reading Guards by Terry Pratchett. Nice. Happy to hear that. Dude, I got like... You know what's fucked up? You know what's really fucked up? It's fucked up that, like, for the most part, if you get really cynical and pretentious and condemn the average person for being illiterate, people call you, you know, conceited and pretentious and arrogant. But if you're like a Roger Ebert type, you can get away with it. I feel like there's a point where if you're old enough and you're a guy and you look serious enough, you can be that guy. You can be like, the unwashed masses no longer engage with literature, and that's why everyone's stupid. And people will respect you, you know? Yeah, if you wear a cardigan, basically. But you can't do it normally. Roger Ebert's paid his dues. Yeah, but he's right. Did anyone else see the Reddit post of like, this is what it's like to talk to normies these days? Every once in a while, and this is not something I experience because my friend group is, you know, I don't know, I guess like not very normie coded, no shade / not bragging, not a compliment or a negative statement, just not. But like every once in a while I get those coworker posts and it's like, holy shit, do people actually talk like this? Like text like this, I mean, like the, humble brag, not a brag, not a slide, okay? Just... You see how people talk and it's like, oh my God, I refuse to believe that this is value neutral. I refuse to believe, I am not so misanthropic that I would believe that this is just by default the way people are in like communicatively. I remember for the first 20 years of my life, every time I heard somebody make an argument about how like texting was making people stupider, I blew it off. And like, it's just... It's obviously true. I don't know why, like, everyone's so reluctant to acknowledge it. I don't know. Example? Fuck you. Nobody has deep thoughts anymore. Actually, I disagree. I think the fucked up thing, people are having the same goddamn thoughts. They're just getting worse at communicating them. That's the fucked up thing. People are, they have no mouth, but they must scream, you know? People are thinking the same stuff that they've always thought, you know, the same. It's not like the brains are different. It's just that your ability to process and communicate that information is getting depreciated over time. So people feel more alone because they've lost the ability to engage with the arts that allow them to communicate and interpret those feelings. And it's almost worse, you know? Wait, Vaush, do you mean actually just texting back and forth? I haven't heard this. You're usually writing the stuff. Can you expand? Okay, I'm trying to like... Okay, this is the most like boiled down version of the argument possible, so much so that it might not even be like useful, okay? But if you compare the information and sentiment that you communicate with somebody that you care about via text to the information and sentiment communicated by like a letter that one might have sent in 1912, like a letter you would send to your family back home or to like your loved one or whatever. Like if you look at the difference in the range and scope of expression, I think that it doesn't just reflect a difference in literacy, because the average person 115 years ago was probably less literate than they are today. I think it expresses a lowered interest in putting effort into communicating your feelings. And that, I think, is the difficult part. It's not that people 115 years ago read better, because they didn't, on average. It's that 115 years ago, people didn't think that it was weird or bad to really commit yourself to expressing a full range of emotion or like your feelings or your thoughts or whatever. But nowadays people are kind of like detached from that process because the ease of texting has made it sort of feel a little bit conceited to really do that. And I think that just makes it, people feel awkward. Like people would feel awkward stringing together like a letter in a text, you know, it feels cringe, but it's also like more sincere to an extent, I think, or at least you have a greater range of communicative ability. Couldn't it also be context / medium, like sending a letter is more special than a text? Yeah, but that's the problem. Nothing is special anymore. Everyone can communicate with everyone all the time, so nothing is special anymore. That's the issue. And if nothing's special, we don't put in the effort for it. And if we don't put in the effort for it, we lose like the muscle to put in the effort, you know? You know what I mean? It's not that we're stupider. It's just like we've socially disincentivized the kinds of information exchange that I think we benefit from, you know, get our sort of massage our neurons a little bit, you know? That's why I said 1912 Hyperion. Same kind of thing with the Artemis astronauts. They had no poetry for describing literally seeing the dark side of the moon in a solar eclipse in space. Well, I don't want to speak ill of the astronauts, you know? I think they're fine people. I mean, I assume. I guess it's more like, I don't know, all communication's been diluted into like a very narrow range. They're not poets. They're not poets, yeah, though it is true that a lot of our historical records, you know, going back hundreds or thousands of years, were from, I don't know. It's fine. It's fine. It's a sample bias. The average person's always been profoundly retarded. It's just records of literate people stayed around. I actually disagree with that. I do think there is an element of that. I do think there is a truth to that. But I think that if you take a look at, because we talked about this before, if you take a look at what children were expected to engage with in school back in the 1950s, I do think that the range of communication that we are expected to be able to parse has narrowed over time as everything gets more informal, you know? It's kind of like how, to use an analogy that would land with me, it's kind of like how the average person back in the 1950s, when it came to sartorial matters, dressed much better. The dresses and the suits were better constructed. But that wasn't because the average person knew more about fashion. Like, if you go back and look at men in the 1950s, they dressed, compared to today's suit and tie wearers, much better. But that wasn't because they knew more. It was because they lived in a society that was full of tailors. They lived in a society full of suit makers and people at, I don't know, Macy's or Brooks Brothers or whatever, who would give them recommendations. They lived in a society that made it easy for them to know how to dress properly. Does that make sense? So it's not that they were smarter in that sense. It was that the world made it easier for them to pick up on, you know, more sophisticated ways of presenting themselves. You know, a finer understanding of the proportions. Kind of like that. I don't think the average person's necessarily gotten stupider. It's just we're not really prioritizing those skills anymore, which is bad because, like, it is not good that socially we are not prioritizing communication and intelligence. That's not good. That's not good. Kind of reminds me a little bit about how accents have been disappearing, you know? Like American accents. If you go back and you watch public access television from back in the 1970s in the American South, New York, Jersey, the Northwest, Americans had very, very, very different accents. Now, Americans everywhere are sounding more the same. You can go to New Jersey and the kids there will sound similar to the kids from California because everyone's watching the same YouTubers, you know? That's the internet, though? Well, that's my point. It's about the broader homogenization of society. And part of that homogenization is the range of acceptable communication. The more you develop your ability to communicate and go outside the fold, the better your brain gets, you know? The whole point of writing and reading and so on is that you're teaching yourself new ways of communicating, right? That's why poetry is so important. I wrote a letter with a typewriter to my crush congratulating them on their degree, and they just found it cringe and laughed at it. That really sucks. That really sucks on the part of your crush. I mean, I don't know. I'm only getting your side of the story. Like maybe you typed out like "send Bob's and Vagine" in the typewriter, but you know, it sounds to me like the faux pas was on their end. Was it cringe? I'm not gonna lie, man. If somebody presented me a typewritten note of congratulations, I feel like I would appreciate that regardless of how cringe it was. Who cares if it's cringe, man? Oh, it's cringe. Oh, man, when the love of my life got on one knee and proposed to me, they looked so silly. Why are they on one knee? Dude, it's not all that big of a deal, man. Just give me the ring. What are you talking about? Jesus Christ. Yeah, live a little. Let the butterflies float in your stomach. What are you talking about? Jesus Christ. The death of sincerity and the death of literacy are two overlapping phenomena, okay? There's something achingly sincere about, you know, reading well-written literature rather than the eroded, sandblasted Marvel dialogue that you get from YA production. Everything. Oh, they fly now. Oh, they fly now. I'm sorry. We're doing the bit. We're playing the hits. Sound like a broken goddamn record. God, that's good. You know why it's good? Because it was made with love by my partner. I made my first coffee of the morning, and they made my second. This one tastes better.